It's still the All-Star break. We've seen 56 Minnesota Timberwolves games so far, and there has been a lot of big topics to hit on. But within that roller coaster that this Wolves team is constantly on, there's a lot of small things, a lot of fun things that aren't going to be headline grabbers, but are fun to watch out for. So since we've got a little bit more time before we see live Minnesota games, I just want to break down a few things that have been piling up in my film room that I think are worth looking back on and looking forward to as we head into the home stretch of the season. First off, we've got to talk about this Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert link-up that's been bubbling within Minnesota's offense lately. It's never seemed easy for Minnesota to just consistently get Gobert involved in their offense and help free him from just being a space taker within their scheme, but this season, McDaniels has become a Gobert whisperer offensively, and there's a few reliable ways that he's doing that. The first is doing what McDaniels does best, attacking shifted defenses, getting past these closeouts, and then engaging Gobert's defender at the rim so he can find Gobert for lobs or dump off passes. This is straight up the easiest way to get open shots at the rim for this team. There's a few certainties on any given offensive possession. Teams are going to send these rim helpers off Gobert at McDaniels if he's getting downhill, and Gobert is going to be hanging around the paint waiting for his offensive scraps. Now we know Gobert's hands are like concrete slabs sometimes, but just like it was with Joe Ingles in Utah and Kyle Anderson a few years back in Minnesota, he seems to wrangle McDaniels' passes more often than not, and I think a lot of it is because this is the perfect situation to enhance Gobert. Play out of the corner, burn the closeout defender, make that defender commit to his drive, and then find the big man camping out at the rim. It's very simple hoops, but it's also very effective hoops. And it's also a very effective way to stuff McDaniels in the corner without purely making him a shooter or even just a non-factor within the offense. It just opens up another avenue to score for this team when McDaniels is working out of those corners. We've also seen McDaniels using Gobert as a pressure release in transition. McDaniels getting out on the break has kind of become an indispensable staple within Minnesota's offense this season, which usually just ends in him scoring in the open court, but it's been cool to see him again using Gobert's man helping down as a marker to find his big man trailing in transition. Again, that's just simple and easy decision making that sometimes Minnesota's offense struggles with. To me though, the most intriguing aspect of this connection is when McDaniels is operating as a pick and roll playmaker with Gobert as the play finisher. Again, it's just engaging Gobert's defender, then making the right reads to get easy points. McDaniels has made a pretty sizable leap in his ability to not only make those passes, but recognize the window when this defender steps up into coverage, which gives him those pockets to make those decisions. It's not going to be a major part of Minnesota's offense this season, but it's another weapon in their offensive bag, and I think more importantly, it's a sign of growth for McDaniels that he's going to need if he's ever going to step into even more usage that he's at right now. We've seen his scoring load increase as a pick and roll creator, but if he can consistently make these reads, he's going to demand more pick and roll usage, more time on the ball, and more opportunities to become an actual on-ball creator. And really, this segues into the next thing I want to talk about, and that's Rudy Gobert's decision making on the short roll. Because that's not only been an improvement we've seen throughout the season, but it's something that is really important for Minnesota in the postseason. We've seen a lot of Minnesota playoff games in the last few seasons, and what we know now is teams are going to send two to the ball in pick and roll. They're going to allow Gobert to catch here in the middle of the floor, and they're going to make him make these decisions from that position. And that directly affects Anthony Edwards, who sees this coverage a lot in the playoffs. So when Gobert is the pressure release here, he himself needs to engage the defender and then be a playmaker to the open man. Gobert has proven time and time again that he just can't score consistently in these positions, especially in playoff settings, but he has become a better playmaker, and I think this is going to be a thing we're going to be talking about in a few months. When Ant is trapped off a pick, can Gobert find a way to make these catches in the middle and then make these passing reads to players who can finish around the rim in better positions? Edwards has absolutely become a better pocket passer who is more willing to use Gobert as an outlet on those short rolls, and in turn, Gobert has demonstrated he's more patient, less frantic, and able to find cutters and shooters when the backline defense hits him with that late rotation, but I'm interested to see how much of that will translate when the defense really ramps it up down the stretch here. And how much can he and Ant combat that in other ways? Is it just floating into the middle of the floor without setting a pick and really punishing teams for going super aggressive on Edwards? When teams just simply ignore Gobert around the perimeter, can they flow into dribble handoff actions that break that defense open? Can they find ways like these possessions to turn a defense disregarding Gobert into better shots for Edwards and do it in high pressure situations? I think both Gobert's decision making and Ant's increased ability to get off the ball and find it again in better spots makes that way more likely to happen in big games this season than it has been in previous seasons. And to switch tact here for the last underrated thing I want to mention, it's probably time we talk about the fun stuff Donte DiVincenzo does as an off-ball defender. DiVincenzo isn't a defensive stopper, he's not someone Minnesota want to be locked onto star level players, but he is an off-ball gambler, a chaos creator defensively, and that's still a very useful tool for a defense. There's a few things I really love about Donte DiVincenzo's frenetic style of defense, and the main one is his willingness to fully commit to a rotation in an attempt to blow up an offensive possession. Now, leaving your man to sell out on a rotation is inherently a gamble, and gambles are inherently risky, but they're also fire starters for this Wolves defense, and sometimes I feel like DiVincenzo doesn't get enough credit for starting those fires with this gambler mentality. Like being able to see Şengün rolling into space here and split second committing to the gamble is the kind of thing that doesn't just stop points, it sparks them going the other way. I mean, he's guarding an all-star in Norm Powell here, but diving down and leaving Powell open both prevents a really easy bucket for Miami, but also kickstarts early offense for Minnesota and allows Naz Reid to attack a broken floor defense. No matter what the situation, if DiVincenzo is in a position to make a long rotation and sniff out a turnover, he's going to do it. Minnesota has better defenders than him, Gobert is better, McDaniels is better, even newcomer Dosunmu is better, but none of them defend in this chaotic style, and I think it's a good thing that DiVincenzo brings some of that fire to their icy styles of defense. He's just constantly looking for chances to make splash plays on defense. And I think that actually helps in pick and roll coverage, where he does struggle to shadow scorers and navigate screens. Because what he does better than anybody on this roster is execute veer-back switches in pick and roll coverage. He's not always going to stay attached through screens, but he will veer back off his man and disrupt the roll man at, I'd say, a borderline elite level. If a player isn't going to be an on-ball stopper, the next best thing they can do is recognize when the big steps up in help and veer off to cover their man, and actually be able to make a play when they do so. I think because DiVincenzo does seem to have this insatiable hunger for the ball defensively, he does this at a really high level. And with that same logic, I think he detonates dribble handoffs and off-ball offense better than anybody on Minnesota's roster as well. Again, by really just wanting to chase off-ball, he gets in these off-ball gaps at a high level, and he's got those great hands and defensive playmaking instincts that kick in if he can squeeze through these crevices between his man and the screener. Again, this is a gamble, but also again, it's one that this team needs, and it's also one that will lead directly to points on the other end of the floor. He's not going to be the wing stopper or the lockdown guy for Minnesota, but I really love watching DiVincenzo create chaos defensively for this team, and I think it's a little underrated how much it kickstarts for them on a nightly basis. So there's a few mini topics I had in the bank as we look forward to the post-All-Star break Timberwolves. And if you want to see more breakdowns heading down the stretch of the season, subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and let me know in the comments what you want to see on Howls and Growls going forward. Thanks again for watching.